I'm sitting here with one of the fan favorites of WXW, Psycho Mike. I am delighted that you are here. How are you doing?
I'm pretty good, thank you. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm pretty good too. Thank you very much. Before we turn to WXW and the German scene, let's talk a little bit about you. How did you get into wrestling? What is the first memory you have of it?
Man, I think I never have a good answer for this because it's always the boring one that I think a lot of people give, where it's you grew up watching it and everything. Um, I'm trying to think of my first memory. Um, I vaguely recall. I couldn't even tell you. Like I know it wasn't WWF. So it would have been some regional promotion or something like that. And I was one of my neighbors was babysitting me. I would have probably been like four or something like that. And it was I just remember it being on television and wondering what it was. Uh, and so I asked my friend's dad, who was so they were babysitting me, and I was just asking him some questions about it. And I don't remember who it was. I remember one guy was in a mask, and that was it. That was
Okay.
my earliest memory. But how I started doing it, it was kind of by accident. I mean, it was always one of those things where, I mean, I don't know what like sports are popular over in Germany, but like over here, it's like baseball and hockey, and so if you're growing up, it's like, and your teacher asks, "Oh, what do you want to be when you get older?" And it's like, "Oh, I want to be a baseball player," stuff like that. So kids are always having, they always have those dreams or those things that they think they want to do when they're a kid. And so wrestling was one of those things where it was just I would say that as my answer, but never really, you know, considered how to make that happen. At least with something like hockey or baseball, you go to your I'd go to mom and say, hey, I want to play soccer. Sign me up for a league. Uh, and then when I remember asking, like, oh, I want to be a pro wrestler. Sign me up for a league. She's like, I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to get started on that. So what ended up happening, I was actually in high school, um, and I took this one class that was basically just here's a computer, do every month you work on a project. You pretty much did whatever you wanted. And this guy, Scott, did a project. It was a website on his cousin Josh, who was a pro wrestler. Uh, And I remember when he did the presentation and everything, I was just, oh wow, I'm only like 2 degrees removed from somebody who's actually doing this stuff. And then so that summer I asked Scott to put me in touch with his cousin just to pick his brain about it. And then within like 2 weeks I drove down to the his school, which was just like this hole in the wall garage sort of thing. It wasn't anything like grand, mind you, but that was the first time I stepped in the ring and like I took a bump and everything. Um, and I just kind of fell into it from that. And then years later, Johnny Devine opened up his own class or his own school. It was in a boxing gym of all places, and that was back when MySpace was a thing. If you remember that, so he
Yeah, I
announced
do. I
that,
do.
and I figured, oh well, I'll be in the first class, and my thinking was, um, the training I'd get would be different than everybody else in the area, and so I'd have some element of uniqueness to me, kind of out of the gate, which turned out to be pretty true. Um, but yeah, that's how I started. It was just I went to school with somebody that I fell into it, and then kind of got familiar with the scene, and then saw a Facebook or a MySpace post, and then that was it. I went. He drove us. He ran us through like a 2 hour long workout. I remember as kind of like a trial. Nothing like where like dangerous or anything, mind you, but just like a lot of push-ups, a lot of squats, a lot of sit-ups, that sort of thing.
Hmm.
Just to um, I don't know. I guess as a tryout, I don't know, more like a gut check, I guess. If you're like, oh, I don't want to do this anymore, and you just kind of like I know at least one person that just kind of noped out of it right away. Um, And then it was a month after that he started his wrestling classes. And then the rest is history from there.
Yeah, you actually had some well-known trainers or coaches, Harley Race, Scott Demore, Johnny Devine. Is there one specific moment, a specific hint or whatnot that you took with you that you could speak about?
So the Harley race thing is a bit I don't know how that came about. So this is a question I get asked a lot. So the Harley race I did one week long camp with, and that was it. And then somehow it ended up on the internet as I was trained by Harley Race.
Okay.
And so I get asked about that a lot. So I just want to nip that in the bud, just so I don't sound like somebody that's claiming that I was trained by somebody that I was trained by Harley Race. It was just a week long camp. Scott Demore was was through Johnny Devine, and so just the geography around here. So I'm close to Toronto. So where we were training was maybe 40 minutes outside of Toronto. Scott Demore School's in Windsor, which is about 3.5 hours away from that. After about a year, Devine had moved to Windsor to become the head coach at Scott Demore School, and so we like Josh Alexander, myself, Carter Mason, Daniel were extended pretty much an open door invite whenever we wanted to come down. And so since it was Scott Demore's place, he'd be there quite often, and so we'd get in there with him as well. The things I remember most about Scott Demore, though, wasn't so much the pro wrestling stuff. It was I'm gonna say the shoot training, where it was more we'll get in there and like roll around and do jujitsu and submission wrestling and things like that. And I was like shocked at how good at it he was. Like there'd be times where I'd be trying to get him in something and I think I'm doing well, and he would just kind of like laugh it off and just giggle and like, what are you trying to do? This doesn't hurt. And I'm like, oh, well, there goes my confidence. But the big takeaway, I think I kind of alluded to it before, was it was really around, and Divine was really big on this, was doing something different, right? So I remember at that time, there's a gym called a Squared Circle, who was the head coach was Rob Fuego. Very, very good coach, very held in very high regard. We're talking like, Gail Kim, Beth Phoenix, I know trained with him really early on. I know he's like Rhino and Edge and Christian were guys that he traveled with when they were making their way on the indie scene. So like he's not a small chicken, so to speak. But like his Divine's philosophy was like, I'm not going to train you like a Rob Fuego, because you might as well just go train with him. And he has this particular style, so people coming out of his school, they might learn some of the same things, deliberate or not. They might adopt the same mannerisms, the same moves, things like that. And Divine didn't want that. So like he kind of looked around the scene at the time and identified what he felt were gaps, and one of them was striking. He thought that the striking could be more snug, it could be more realistic and things like that. So he spent a lot of time training us in those things, thinking that, hey, once we start doing it, if that's one thing that we could do better than everybody else, we're ahead of the game. His style of chain wrestling as well was a bit more aggressive and less like theatrical and fancy, and he was very big on just like overall fitness as well. And I do recall a lot of like I'm just going to call it shoot fighting. It wasn't like we were socking each other in the face or anything, but just roll on the mats and spar. And he really wanted us to get good at doing that, because if you were good at doing that, then you could extrapolate that and you'd be, good at other things. So those are my big takeaways from
Okay.
all that training. Yeah.
Okay, very cool. Um, and you said so yourself, the rest is history, and you're in the ring for quite a few years now. Is there one experience you would consider your worst experience in your wrestling career?
There's a funny one that comes to mind. I'll give you two.
Okay.
Do you want the sad one first? Excuse me.
Yeah,
You want the sad one?
let's do the
Start.
sad one first. Yes.
It's probably my shoulder dislocation and
Oh.
at the end of 2014.
Hmm.
Um, and that one, the timing wasn't great. I just had felt I was training at Battle Arts with Santino Marella and Yuki Ishikawa for a couple years at that point, and I felt like things were going well. And then I was hitting a stride, and I was I did one of the Battle Arts shows, which is a completely different style of wrestling it's more like an ambition style,
Hmm.
and I figured I want to try that and give people a different look, uh, give people a different look at me. And about 1 minute into that, I was fighting a gentleman named Randy Rain, and he went for like a leg sweep. I sprawled into a front face lock, probably something you've seen a million times, and then my left shoulder subluxed. It just shifted backwards in its socket. So I remember just sitting there on my knee looking at it, like, I don't know how that happened.
Hmm.
There wasn't like any impact on I have no clue. It just happened. But I know how to relocate a posterior dislocation because I've had it happen once before. So in the other arm. So when I was sitting there, I just externally rotated a little bit, which is this is the movement you want to get it to shift back into place. And then in doing so, I heard the labrum rip. I heard it just like it was just like a big crunch, and I didn't think anything of it at the time. But like a week goes by and it's not getting better. Like I've had a dislocation before, and after a day or two, it feels relatively normal. I'm not saying it's like all healed and it's all better, but it doesn't affect your day to day.
Hmm.
This was going on 2 weeks and it just wasn't improving. So I got the MRI and everything and found out it was a pretty large tear in it that required well, it didn't require surgery, but given the severity and the size of it, it wasn't a thing that was just ever gonna heal on its own.
Hmm.
So that was a bad one for me because I had like a few things coming up around that time as well that just kind of had to kick the can on. And there was a period there where I had to make that consideration. Like, all right, maybe that's it. Like maybe it's just done. So didn't give up. Did all the physio, rehab, everything. But it took close to a year before I could, come back. So that was probably the worst one for in terms of sadness. uh, the other most miserable point would have been a bit more funnier was, and I'm not gonna send anybody. I'm not gonna say any names or the promotion or anything. I will say that the match is online.
Okay.
So if you want to go hunting for it, but yeah, I was doing some things like they're like fair shows. I don't know what a good translation for that is, but just smaller shows in smaller towns where you basically just doing a loop and trying to make as much money as possible in these small towns that like don't really get to see much of anything.
Okay.
So just to contextualize it, it wasn't like this was a big opportunity for me or anything like that, but it's definitely something where like you're not getting much of exposure or anything like that. So there was the show was only, it was like an afternoon show at like 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, something like that. And the gentleman I'm wrestling shows up, and I could smell alcohol in his breath. And the guy's clearly tanked. He's like intoxicated beyond. Uh, I couldn't. I was incredulous because it was barely the afternoon. This guy's tanked. We're trying to call this match, and it was to protect myself. I'm just trying to do like a very simple Carney style, just like your very basic primitive carnival style match, just to get kids laughing and stuff like that. And I thought, like, all right, he's into it. He's having a good time. The match starts, and the moment he gets in control of the heat, kicks me right in the head. And you can see in the clip, the moment I just give up on the match. You just see it in my face, like, all right, this is the next 10 minutes of my life. But I kind of had this like existential crisis during that, because it's like I'm looking around and it's just like I feel like a clown as it is. I was like, why am I here? Like I drove hours away from my house. Um, and yeah, and it's like the money's like, in this circumstance, the money's not even worth it. I'm not building my career. I'm not getting any exposure from this. Nothing. I'm not getting anything from this except getting like absolute shit kicked out of me, out of this guy who's drunk, and I can't reason with him. I can't say lighten up, because he's not going to know what that means.
Mm.
Yeah. So like it was probably, I had this fleeting moment there where I just like gave up on wrestling, and you can pinpoint the moment in that YouTube video. Just the look on my face is just, all right, that's it. The next 10 minutes of my life is going to be this.
Yeah,
And it was one of the worst matches I had, like just in terms of like absolute quality of it. But given that it didn't mean anything. Like I'm not heartbroken about it by any means, but I just look back at that and just think like how funny that is. Just like, yep, I'm done. This is it.
yeah, I think I have to find that particular match. If you say it's out
Yeah.
there, it's findable, I guess. But
Yeah.
enough of
I'm not gonna give any hints. I'm not giving any clues. I am bothered by how many views it has the last time I looked. Unfortunately. So okay, there's your, maybe that's a hint. Yeah, maybe that's a
okay,
hint.
maybe that's a hint. Yeah,
Mm,
I'll give it a look, of course.
yeah.
But enough with bad experiences. What about a good one you can speak about?
Oh, like
The
that's an
best,
easy
the
one.
best one. Okay.
Um, I mean, if we're going, I'll give you, two answers for that, maybe three. A really good experience I had back in, this would have been like 2011. Now it's a long while ago. Being flown to Los Angeles for the Wrestling Retribution project, which was a week-long pilot that they were was being filmed by Jeff Katz. It's at the Jim Henson studio. So it was a pretty big deal, at least in terms of like for me at least.
Hmm.
Um, and unfortunately, it never ended up getting picked up or anything. But years later, Lucha Underground happened, which was very much in the same vein of what they were going for. So at least I got to experience that, and I got to meet a bunch of people doing that. Um, Another highlight, I got wrestling for WWE at the Air Canada Center, was a pretty cool one. Um, it was a match against Brodus Clay, but I remember being in the ring when they announced my name. There were enough people that recognized me that a little like a Psycho Mike chant broke out, and like to me it sounded like it was the entire stadium, but I had nothing to compare it to, so I don't know what a full stadium sounds like when they're chanting. So that one was a fun one. But most recently and relevant to probably this interview would have been Carrot back in 2022.
Mhm.
A big sentimental uh, moment for me, because at that point we were coming off of like a 2-year lockdown over here in Canada, and I could probably count on one hand how many matches and shows I had done during that, before flying over. Because when everything first started, when the lockdown first happened, I was in London, in Europe, doing my first tour in Europe. And it was like cut short at 2 days because of the lockdown. So that was a very depressing, at the time it's like, okay, well, the world's falling apart. Wrestling doesn't matter. I'm not gonna like pity myself too much, but it still stung, and it sat with me for a while. And it was frustrating being over here and like seeing like other things that were still happening in the world, and like we had no agency over anything here. But Sebastian, the promoter, owner of Smash Wrestling, asked if I was interested to going over to Germany for Carrot, and I was, but it almost took some convincing for me to do it because my confidence was so shot, and I felt very unprepared. But we ended up going over, and so on that first day, the first night when I had the match with Von Vertigo, that evening before, Sebastian had like a cold or something. I was splitting rooms with him, and he was snoring all day, all night. I mean, I couldn't sleep, got zero sleep. I literally laid there in bed, just staring at the ceiling for about 6-7 hours, whatever it is, contemplating whether or not I'd be able to get away with murder. Like that's I was like strategizing like how I could just like absolutely kill this guy and get away with it. I couldn't. And the only reason why I didn't kill him is because I didn't come up with a plan, right?
With a good plan, yeah.
It
Okay.
wasn't like this is the wrong thing to do. It's just no, there's I couldn't figure out a way to get away with it. So sun comes up. We're at breakfast the next morning. And Vaughn looks at me and he just says like you look like shit, man. And I just looked at him and I just said, I'm so sorry. I don't know how I'm going to be able to get through today. And I just saw his like heart sink because he was looking forward to this match. But yeah, we show up at the venue. I'm on fumes. I'm running on fumes. And we get ringside and my brain is barely working. And it kind of became this blessing in disguise because I basically told him, I said, look, like I'm so messed up right now that like we're not like nothing risky today. Like I'm sticking to my greatest hits. Like it's just that's really I just got to trust my instincts that like the things that I'm gonna do are gonna be it's gonna work. It's gonna be fine. And then as we started talking about it, I got my second wind and I started feeling pretty good about it. But like I mean you know my style and if for people that have worked with me, I have I guess a bit more of a unique way of putting things together. But so we didn't really get in the ring and do anything. But for like the next hour or so, like I'm seeing everybody else on the show, like practicing all these things and doing all these complicated things. And I start thinking in my head, like, I don't know, should I do more? I don't know. But I'm like, I even if I wanted to, I can't. I'm so like, I can barely stand. I can barely walk right now. And so we went out, we were up first. And I remember coming out, doing the entrance and everything, and feeling like, oh man, this is what it's like when nobody knows who you are. It's been a while, and I was feeling very like, oh shit, like I don't know, this isn't gonna work. And then I remember doing the bit with the hard cam, the arm wringer and everything.
Yeah.
And they reacted to it like right out of the gate. I was like, oh, okay, maybe I'll be fine. And then we continued and I got to the body slam bit and then they were biting on everything. And that's when I relaxed. It took like that long for like, okay, they're going to give me a chance. They're at least being receptive to the things I'm doing so far. And I felt really good about that. And it's been one of my favorite matches that I've ever had. But the moment was the next day, for the big 10-man tag match we were doing. Just a bit of context. They gave me new music different music to use for this weekend because of, I think it was the WWE network. You know, they had to, they couldn't use licensed music, right?
Yeah.
So when we're doing this tag match, we all are getting separate entrances. So I'm sitting back by the gorilla in the gorilla position, and then we hear music play, and there's this big pop, there's this big cheer, right? And I'm just standing there waiting, and maybe like 5-10 seconds go by, and I just look at Jeff or Von Vertigo, and I say, "Is this my music?" And he looks at me, he's like, "What the hell do you think, man?" Because they're like, yeah. And then so I do my end, like I go out on the stage, and they're chanting my name and cheering, and like I couldn't believe it, right? Because if you had asked me like 2 weeks before what my expectations were for this, it definitely wasn't that. And I remember um walking down the stage, and I actually had like tears dripping out of my eyes. Like I couldn't believe it that like I was just able to, given all the circumstances especially, but to go out and just like say, hey, this is who I am, this is what I do, it's unconventional, I know, please forgive me, please tolerate me, and that it worked, and people were receptive, and people liked it, and they wanted to see more. It meant so much to me. It meant the absolute world to me, especially at that point where in my life, not even just like wrestling, just in my life, where it was like, I don't know. I was asking myself like just a few days before that trip, like I don't know what I'm doing wrong, or like I don't know if like I'm doing the right things or the wrong things, or whatever it is. So to be that accepted that quickly, and to get that positive reception, the positive feedback, to see the smiles, to hear the cheer, it meant the world to me, and I'll never forget that.
Mhm. Yeah, I was there in the audience in both your matches actually. Obviously, I have never seen you before, but you can say, yeah, you made quite an impact relatively quick. But we'll get to that maybe a bit later
Mm.
too. Um, so as you said, it was not your Europe debut, it was for the pandemic, but your WXW
Yeah,
first match. Yeah, how did the contact come about?
it was all through Sebastian. He's, and this isn't the first time he's done something like this for me. Sebastian is one of the most selfless people in wrestling, um, that I've met. He's like one of the few that has gone out of his way to do things for me or to help me out without me prompting it or asking. And this was definitely one of those situations where, as pandemic, we're getting out of it. Smash Wrestling's gonna want to, they're gearing up to start running shows again and everything like that, and he's putting on all this legwork to build relationships to help get exposure for the company and for his talent and everything. And so he just reached out and asked
Okay.
if I was interested, and it's that simple. For me, at least, it was that simple. For him, probably not so much, but he also trusted me that I wasn't going to go and screw it up for him and like, be a jackass in the locker room or something like that, and ruin his reputation. But yeah, he trusted me enough to go out and not like completely shit the bed as well. So, but yeah, that's it. Like there's no interesting story there at all, other
Okay.
than having somebody do a big solid for me.
Yeah, and it was a start for, WXW and Smash Wrestling working together. Last year
Mm,
they hosted, I think, 2 shows in Canada together.
correct. Yeah.
Um, and I, for example, got a first small impression of the Canadian scene. But how is the Canadian indie scene doing in general?
Um, so I think the first time Smash and WXW worked together was in 2019, because I remember,
Oh, okay.
yeah, and that week there was a SummerSlam was here, and so WXW, they had their Ambition show. They had the Ambition tournament in Canada or in Toronto, and I think there was another WXW event that they ran that week as well. So the seeds were planted sooner, I think.
Okay.
But for the as far as the Toronto scenes, it's well, it's hard to speak for Canada as a whole because there's different pockets. So for Toronto, it's recovered. It's doing well. I think the promotions aren't as numerous now, but the ones that that are around or from the beginning, like from before the pandemic, there's a lot. Most of them have I guess survived. So there's like I predominantly work for Smash and Super Kicked in the Toronto area, but there's also like C4 Wrestling out of Ottawa, which is doing really well. It's like, yeah, they're doing better than ever right now. Evil Uno's also got his own thing going on, not far from Ottawa, in Quebec, and Gatineau, Quebec. And I just did one of those, the mystery show last week, actually.
I read about it. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's only two shows into that, but he's got an interesting thing going there as well. But if you like, I know on the West Coast and BC, there's a lot going on, and a lot of going on in British Columbia. And I only learned more about recently with the Defy shows this past weekend in Toronto, and kind of getting a lot of Canadian talent on the Defy wrestling shows made their way down to Toronto. So I got to meet a bunch of them. So there's a lot going on over there. And then you got the Maritimes on the East Coast, which isn't as great, I guess, for like exposure. It's a completely different style, but the shows are huge.
Okay.
The crowds are great. A good friend of mine, Marcus Burke, runs events there all the time, and he's somebody I've never been treated so well than I have by him. So any time I get to go over to the Maritimes, I'm on that plane right away.
Okay.
Those shows are a lot of fun. Very well done, very professional. I just think it's unfortunate that it doesn't get as much I guess indie wrestling buzz. Maybe for better or worse. I mean, I kind of don't want other people to know about it because I want to keep it like intimate and fun, but that's just me being selfish. But yeah, there's a lot that happens here. It's unfortunately it's not as obvious to the rest of the world, because we're very similar to the United States. So it's just if you want to see like the North American style, like you get a lot of it already. So yeah, but yeah, don't sleep on us is all I'm saying. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you talked about the US, and you've worked for WWE, Impact, Ring of Honor. There's only one major promotion missing right now. AEW, it's
Yeah.
not around for that long. Do you have ambitions to, go there? Are there even contacts maybe?
Yeah, I definitely would like to, because and not even necessarily for the obvious reasons where it's like, oh, it's it's on TV, it's a job, whatever. That's a boring answer. That's all true, but I think it's a boring answer. But what's for me, it's like Psycho Mike is atypical. It's not. It's always a thing that I've had in the back of my mind where it's like, oh, if I got to the big leagues, an NXT or something like that, would probably end up changing. They might not think it fits or whatever it is. Maybe it doesn't read well on this big stage. But then something like AEW comes along, and when you have your acts like your Danhausens, and your Orange Cassidys, and it kind of validated that, hey, these strange, uncanny acts like work. They can still work, and and since it's being run by folks that are, you know, wrestling fans, like I guess first and foremost,
Yes.
that see the value in those things or enjoy those things, it looks like they'll give the talent the breathing room and the space to, you know, experiment or try those things without like making all of these adjustments, just to, because I always got this feeling where they're in the big leagues, there might be this stubbornness where it's, oh, this definitely can't work on TV, therefore we're not even going to try it. And it looks like they've taken a different approach where it's just, hey, let's see if this works. One of the big ones was that big Stampede match, the stadium Stampede match.
Yes.
Like it's like I saw that and I'm just thinking, this is no other place would this have been allowed to happen, right? But they went out there and if there's this confidence and there's this vision that, hey, this can work if we give it attention and we give it effort and we don't like half-ass it, and they have proved that these things can work. So all these quirky ideas that I have that I do like on the indie circuit, it starts making me feel a bit more ambitious where it's, hey, if this happened on a bigger stage, or if given those resources and those tools, like what could my brain come up with? So that's the main reason why I'd be interested, is to kind of, I don't know, battle test some of my philosophies and ideas around wrestling, and maybe a bit of validation as well.
Yeah, I'll keep my fingers crossed for that. And you said it, Psycho Mike is characterized by his very atypical character. How did you come up with the idea?
This would have been, yeah, so it's a bit organic over time, but the original genesis of it was, yeah, so early on, I don't know, I pretty much most people have this, go through this phase of their career where they're trying to find themselves. They're not quite sure what their gimmick or their character is and this and that. And so I was trying, I saw it early on with makeup of all things. And there's a promoter in the Toronto area at the time, he was also a podcast host, a Big Daddy Donnie. So he was a booker for another event. And he's always been like a strong supporter of mine, and reached out to me, and he could see like my struggles and see, you know, I was trying to find something, and he reached out and he pitched this idea of me doing a tag team with Crazy Steve from Impact Wrestling, who, if you, just for some context, is a Toronto-based independent professional wrestler, and his idea was Crazy Steve and Psycho Mike. And at first I didn't like the idea, because I'm like, it's a silly name, and I don't know, like I just don't want to, I don't know, steal somebody else's thing, sort of, whatever. But we only did the one match together, but I kind of fell in love with the name, mainly because it was fun to chant. And I do recall reading something from Lance Storm where one of his biggest regrets was picking the name Lance Storm because you can't chant it. And so just at the time I'm thinking, all right, well, at least you can chant it. And then not too long after that, I had my first match at C4 Wrestling, the Ottawa-based promotion I mentioned earlier.
Yep.
And I was tagging with Josh Alexander against 2.0. 2.0 being Big Magic and a Parker from AEW.
Yeah.
AEW, yeah.
Yeah.
So we did a tag match, and they're, even at that time, like years ago, were very, very charismatic, had a lot of personality. And I remember like thinking, like, okay, well, I'm going in barely knowing who I am, and I'm not feeling like confident that I'm going to get over because of these two personalities that I'm sharing the ring with. And I don't know what happened. I don't know what got over me, but like they did their entrance, and like they elbow dropped my jacket in the entrance, and it got over. And I remember when I was tagged in, thinking like, all right, well, I got to step it up and figure out what. Otherwise, I'm just gonna look like a schlub.
Yeah.
And then like I circled the ring like all awkwardly, and then I quickly ran out of the ring. I grabbed their jacket, and I did a top rope elbow drop on it, and like a people's all this like this stupid stuff, right? And the crowd ate it up. And then I remember basically for like the next 5 minutes, I was in there with Parker just like calling like random stuff, right? Of just like we did like a slap fight on a chair, all this is nonsense, and they're eating it up. And I was thinking like, oh, so I guess if you just go in there and have fun, the people watching it will have fun. And I don't know, it's just kind of this moment for me where I realized like that was the first time I felt like I was just being myself, and then it worked. And then I get backstage and it's just like, oh, I guess that's all it is. You just got to be yourself. And it took me a really long time to just figure that out. And then basically from there, it was just kind of, several year-long journey figuring out how, if I want to go out and be myself, how I can apply that to pro wrestling and pro wrestling psychology and things like that. But it's definitely evolved over time. But I'd say like the current iteration of Psycho Mike was probably started after I got back from my injury. So we were looking at like 2016 till now. It's been kind of this iteration of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, then we have spoken about WXW debut and the Carrot tournament, and they brought you back this year. And you had a much more prominent role. You appeared on 4 shows, I believe. You had a little feud with Jacob Crane. You were part of the second night in front of almost 1,200 people. How did you experience this year's 16 Karat Gold?
Well, I didn't have the nerves that I did before, which I felt like. So especially with the match with Crowley, felt like it that like the template or the basis of it could be different simply because I didn't have to worry about establishing things. So that meant like, you could take a bit more risks with the stuff that we're doing. And so I thought our match was a bit more creative in that sense, a bit more dynamic. But I felt good about it because it was just, I'm not worried about meeting like a certain expectation or whatever, that this is like, I have a home here. And I had just a lot of confidence in that one, but it also meant that I didn't want to go in and just do the same stuff as before. So just trying to like push the boundaries, push the envelope a bit more in that one. I really liked that one a lot. I absolutely love that match. And Maggot's somebody that I have adored since seeing him the first time at Carrot. And so tagging with him, the only reason I had mixed feelings is because I never felt good at tag matches.
Okay.
So when I spoke to him, I said like, hey man, I'm gonna apologize now, but like I'm not like very good at this part, so you're gonna have to help. He's don't worry about it. So I'm glad I was in there with him, because I feel like he gets me. We get along very well as well, and like I really just enjoy watching him. I enjoy his style. So I had a lot of fun, and we'll be doing it again in September. So
yes.
Yeah, so some more stuff to look forward to there for sure.
Yeah, you said it when we arranged the interview. You haven't even been announced for a Tag Team Festival, but yeah.
It worked out. Yeah, the timing of this worked out. Yeah.
It was perfect. You compete
Yeah.
alongside Maggot, as you said, another crowd favorite.
Yeah.
What do you think of the concept of a Tag Team Festival?
What do I think of the concept of
Yes.
Like the two of us together, or just tag teams?
Just bringing 8 tag teams in and have a tournament over 3 days.
I think tag team wrestling is something that has, I don't know, gone underappreciated for a while. So I remember maybe like the 2010s, around that time, you had a bustling tag team division on the indie circuit with Briscoes and Red Dragon, the like Young Bucks,
Mm.
Motor City Machine Guns. Like, it was pretty much like you could put any combination of that on a card and it would be your main event. And then it seemed to kind of fizzled a bit more recently. I think Revival did a very good job in their NXT WWE run to,
Mm.
I don't know, kind of like revolutionize the art of it. So you're seeing that a bit now, but it's I think I don't think there are a lot of wrestlers out there that I want to necessarily identify as being in a tag team. Maybe it's because we're all really selfish people deep down. So I definitely think it's missing. It's a missing art, and I think stuff like this can only help because there's things that only work in tag team wrestling. It's a completely different style of match, which is why I'm not which I don't think I'm as good as them, because it's completely different.
Yeah.
So it's kind of proven the point there, where it's it requires like a different approach and everything, and it goes beyond just variety. I know a lot of places might think of a tag team match as just, oh, we need a tag team match on the card for variety, but like, they're substantial pieces of art for sure. Um, and I think only tag team tournaments, more as a means to an end to give exposure to other
Mm.
tag teams as well, could only help, because I want to see like more of this variety in wrestling in general.
Yeah. Only 3 teams have been announced so far. You and Maggot, French Adors, the Astronauts. Yeah, and I expect the Only Friends to go into the tournament as title holders, but we'll see about that.
Mm.
Is there a team or maybe a wrestler you would like to compete against if you could wish for anyone?
Oh boy. I used to have good answers for this, and then I started wrestling those people. One person immediately comes to mind is Sammy Callahan.
Mm-hmm.
I've been a fan of his for so long, and I've haven't been in the ring with him ever. Not for anything, not even like a battle royal, right? We haven't been in the same match, so that's one I'd really like to do at some point. And I know it's because he'll put up with my bullshit too. So um, I think I want to be fun. Um, Alex Shelley, I've had a match with several years ago that I absolutely adored, and I'd love to do that one again. Not that exact same match. I mean,
Of course.
wrestle him again. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
This one will be better. So those are two that immediately come to mind.
Any team you'd like to face?
Oh, that's tough, because I never really think about tag team wrestling, because I just because
You don't do it, yes.
if yeah, if I were to pick a tag team, I yeah, Revival, I think,
Okay.
just to learn. I want to see how their brains work. Yeah, that would, I think that's the one. Might be a cheap answer, because they're also just, like really good and famous and everything, but I'd almost just want to like call the match and put it together, not even do it. Just, I want to see how they work. I want
Okay.
to see how
I
they
see.
think. Yeah, because they're brilliant. They're absolutely brilliant.
Understandable, yeah.
Yeah.
Baby Allison hasn't been very enthusiastic about your collaboration with Maggot lately. Do you think that will cause any trouble in September?
No, because I'm too much of a sweetheart.
Okay.
I'll be able to diffuse any conflict. That you have, yeah. I have no ill feelings towards her.
Okay.
I can tell you that. So I'll have a conversation, and we'll diffuse it.
Okay. I'm looking forward to that one. Speaking
Yeah,
about
we'll film the
yeah,
conversation
of
too.
course you have to. You
Yes.
have to. Yes.
Otherwise, the conversation didn't happen.
That,
The pro wrestling logic, right?
of course.
Yeah, yeah.
Speaking about ill feelings, a question on behalf of Jacob Crane. Where does your love for body slams come from?
Where does my love for body slams come from?
Yes.
Uh, how did this start? Um, okay, I guess the short answer, I love them because everyone else loves them. Um, and I know they love them because when I ask if they want to see it, they say yes, and I'm like, oh, okay. The whole reason why that whole thing started, it was more of me kind of taking the piss out of it. I wanted to be a bit tongue in cheek, where it's like everybody overthinks this wrestling stuff, where it's like, hey, we gotta like play against subvert their expectations and this and that, and I just thought I thought it would just be funny if it's just, what if you just asked them what they wanted to see and then you went out and did it, and then I had this concept for a match where like it was literally just 10 minutes of the, hey, what do you guys want to see next? So they would tell us, and then we would do it. Just do that for like um I've never actually done that, but I just thought that was an interesting concept. And then one day I don't even remember the first match I did it. I just started doing it, and it worked. And at that time, I was, I would do a bit and then just not do it again, just kind of like a one-off. But this was one where I was like, I don't know, that worked pretty well. So I kept bringing it back. And then I remember doing it on that European tour right before pandemic, and then kind of like just built it. Yeah, built an entire. I just kept doing it on the tour, and it worked. It kept working, and then I figured, all right, maybe it is that easy. Just put that on tights, put it on t-shirts, whatever. Maybe that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all I need now. But it's originally the joke was that everybody has these complicated finishing moves, but you can't do them early because they'll get countered, right? So I always think, like, what if you just pick something really simple for your finishing move and you can just do it right away? Like, why not just do the body slam and then you win? Like all these idiots are trying to do like these complicated setups and everything. No
Oh,
wonder they have to wrestle for 30 minutes.
yeah, I see.
Yeah. And I think somebody else is going to come along and figure out that you can start winning matches with wrist locks. So, right, like lock up, wrist lock, that's it. It's done. Match is over. Um, but yeah, that's the body slam story, I guess.
Yeah, it worked out, at least in WXW and for
Yeah.
Jacob Crane too.
It didn't work out for him, that's for sure.
No, not
No.
you could say so, yes. He even has this T-shirt saying "No more body slams." I
Yeah.
think now, yeah,
Yes. Not.
he's
I don't listen.
not the
I
big,
didn't. I saw it and I didn't listen.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
rightfully so.
Yeah. I didn't agree. I didn't
Uh,
agree with it at all.
Understandable, yes. In 2019, we spoke about North America, we spoke about Europe, but you were with DDT too. You were in Japan.
Yeah.
How was that? I think you teamed with Ricky Starks there.
Yeah.
Must have been quite an experience.
Well, so again, tag team wrestling,
Yeah, okay.
not my forte. So, um, I already felt like it was an uphill battle. Um, I'd really had a lot of, I struggled. I had a lot of trouble adapting to it. It was a bit distressing because they wanted me. So that all came about because of a match I had with Kikitaru, which is online. So if you're looking to melt your brain for 15 20 minutes, watch that one. It's like absolute shenanigans. And so that was I guess the anchor where it was Kikitaru that I put my name forward for it based off of that match. And so I'm thinking, oh, like that's the sort of stuff I'll be doing when I'm there. But when I got there, I guess they saw like a 6'1", 6'2", 225 pound foreigner, and it was like, oh, we want you to look strong, so they wanted me to go in these matches and like be strong, like,
Mhm.
and I'm like, oh, that's I'm just like, that's not really what I do. Like I'm not like a tough intimidating guy. And I don't know if I can sell that. I don't know if I can convince anybody that I am, but that's basically what they wanted. And it was very difficult because in my head, it's how did we get from, you know, the Kikutaro match to, you know, this. um, so that was a struggle, and trying to explain Psycho Mike through a language barrier was really difficult.
Mhm.
And I don't think I definitely didn't show as well as I wanted to on that one. But there were a few matches that I felt like I did really well in, that I had a bit more like agency over, like singles matches and things like that, where I was able to do more of my style. I wish they happened, I guess, like earlier in the tour, so that they could get an earlier signal about like who I was, and like that my style and what I do and what I'd have to offer. It didn't really work out as well. And you know, I would probably have a different mindset if I did another tour, if I did it again. I think I'd have a better head on my shoulders about what to expect and everything. But like that first one, it felt like an uphill climb
Mhm.
the entire time.
Okay.
And unfortunately, I wasn't able to just kind of enjoy it for what it was. Um, but yeah, mixed feelings on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, shame. I have two more questions left. First, what are some goals you would like to achieve in wrestling, not only in WXW, but in general? Maybe a second Japan tour.
Yeah. I'd like to be in the Carrot tournament. That would be a nice one. Um, a bit more of an esoteric goal. So around here with that Super Kicked, another Toronto-based promotion, they do a yearly event for zombie wrestling. So I have a side character, Zombie Mike.
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah.
Yeah, and like it's been an absolute. It would be a dream of mine to be able to perform as Zombie Mike, that character, on like at a bigger stage. So when we were talking about like the AEW stuff earlier around like what my ambitions there would be, like that would be a very good example of it. Would be taking that larger than life character with all the makeup and all the like theatrics around it, and just like putting it out there in a stadium,
Hmm.
and seeing just like, hey, what can we do with it? How well will this work? Um, and also I've we did like a few episodes of a documentary on this character as well, or mockumentary, so to speak, that called Professional Wrestling's Best Kept Secret. So it's been an ambition of mine, and I would call it a feature length pro wrestling promo, but I would love to do like with a full budget and everything, like a longer series on this
Hmm.
character, because I think it's very interesting. Um, yeah, but those are just some ideas that immediately come to mind in terms of like goals and ambitions. If I'm really reaching for the stars. Um, but other than that, uh, I don't know. I just want to make everybody smile. Yeah,
Yeah, next
I think that's
chance.
it. Yeah,
Next chance tag team festival, at
yeah.
least for us German fans. And that brings me to my last question. Is there anything you would like to say to the German fans?
You've changed my life. I mean that bottom of my heart. Thank you so much. It means the world to me, and I just I don't I can barely put into words what it how much it means to me. Um, and it's it's especially given that time in my life where I was like really second guessing myself, really doubting myself. Um, just all the uncertainty I had, uh, and you've changed it for me. I I don't even know what to say. Um, but like when hopefully it resonates that, you know, when I walking down that stage and I'm having like tears come down my cheek, that like I hope that illustrates like how much I mean this, like how sincere I'm being. Is you've definitely it changed my life. So
Yeah.
thank you. Yeah.
Touching few words conclude the interview. Psycho Mike, thanks a lot for having time for us.
No, thank you. I
And
know it's a bit of a challenge to coordinate this, so I also want to just extend my appreciation to you to for tolerating me and being accommodating for everything. So
yeah, and
thank you.
no problem. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.
And
You too.
in September, we'll see you again in Oberhausen, and we are looking pretty much forward to it.
Thank you.
And yeah, bye bye.
Bye.